Welcome to another terribly prepared video from Glenn at the lab. I fixed some things, but I didn't really record a lot. So last time when we used the car, I used the car. You guys don't use the car, last time I used the car at GTR Festival, went out and did 3 laps, I think it was, at quite quick pace. Caught up to my mate Mike Corey in his Z32 300 ZX race car on the main straight at Hampton Downs, and I better pass him. Passed him and went to stand on the brakes, and well, I did stand on the brakes, stood on the brake pedal, and there wasn't a lot of brakes there, kind of half of them gone to sleep more or less. In fact, actually half of them had gone to sleep, and the rear brake system, no one home. Left the chat, so I didn't know that was actually what was going on. I just knew that the brakes suddenly went from perfectly good on the way into the sweeper at Hampton Downs to the very next corner, at least half the pedal gone. There was no fade, there was no warning, it just went, it was mint, and then it suddenly wasn't. It's fine, there's heaps of room. I could edit a little piece of clip in here. There was no drama. I went a little bit wide. Mike was going, "What are you doing?" And then I backed right off, and he was like, "What are you doing? Are you waiting for me so that we can have a race or something?" I let him go past, and I didn't chase him. He was a bit confused, as you would be. But I just did I'm not sure if I did a complete lap or whether I just came in, cooled down, came in. Brakes came up later on. It had boiled the fluid. So I knew the fluid was pretty old because it had done the same thing at the last round of super lap that I raced the car in, which was at the end of last season, not the season just gone, the one prior. So the fluid was quite old. We did change it then. So I thought it was time to bleed the brakes and change all the fluid. So got into it, had the bonnet off and had all the wheels off. I can get the wheels off now. I can do that without hurting my hand, so that's all good. Went around, bled all the brakes and everything, and then I was giving them all a clean after I'd done that. There's a bit of a clue here about this wheel not being fitted. Giving them all a tidy up and having a look as you do, just making sure, don't worry, they're empty, just making sure everything's kosher. And I got to this one here. Shall we shed some light on this for you? Literally. And if you look at that very carefully, how can we make that work with the right lighting? Can you see that? Can you see the burnt paint? I've got to get this light just right for you. There. The burnt paint on the caliper and the very, very shiny edge of the caliper. That should be rusty. There should be nothing ever touches that. And when you look at that clearance and you think, that's not a whole lot of clearance. That's actually a tiny little bit more than what it had before. That's factory clearance. That's where they run them. It's very bad lighting in here. I could open the door, but we get a lot of noise from outside. So what happens? Thermal expansion. Get that very hot, it expands, comes out bigger. And it was hitting the caliper. It hasn't hit on any of the others, just this one. It's actually, I'm not sure we'll ever be able to zoom right in there and see that. You might see inside there. There's witness marks from that rubbing. Only on this one, not the other side, and neither of the front ones. So, braking for the sweeper, this will have got hot enough and it finally would have made contact there. As soon as it's made contact here, it just generates more heat, more expansion, more heat, more expansion, all the way along the main straight up to 265 k an hour. And by the time I've got to the end of the straight, it's boiled the fluid inside this caliper. So the fix for that was pretty simple, self-explanatory. There's an adapter plate that I've made in there. The clearances just needed to be changed. I could have slotted the holes, but I made a new plate. There's a brand new plate in there. The lighting's terrible. I just moved the caliper that way a little bit. Check the other side. So we've now got, I think it's 2.6 or something millimeters clearance here. Same on the other side, and the fronts have got a little bit less, but they're not having any problems. So that was interesting. Found that problem. Good to find that problem. In here, there was a problem in here. It's a little persistent little PITA, and there's a good clue as to what that problem is there. And there's a clue there, there's a clue there, there's a clue there, and there's a clue even further along there. Yes, the sump, the custom sump under there, that tends to crack sometimes. So it cracks for reasons. It's actually a couple of Z1 Motorsports VQ35DE oil sump spacers that were machined, and one of them had a plate welded onto the bottom of it to actually make it a sump pan, I guess you'd say. And then I had a shim in between it to get it right, and there were multiple layers, 3 layers stuck onto the bottom of the sump to make it work, and that's not what the problem was. The problem is potentially with the age of that motor, or just the way they are. There's a lot of, let's call it thumping for the lack of a better term. There's a lot of pulsing and thumping going on inside there from the engine running, and that plate that's on the bottom it's nearly the size of a piece of A4 paper. It's quite a big surface area, and even though it's 3mm thick, it vibrates and buzzes and carries on. And so the harmonics and all that going on there, all the movement, vibration, etc., it cracks the weld. So the weld could be better, and that would stop that. But I took that off, took it apart, had a look. There's some pictures, so I can bang them in here. Welded around the inside of it as well, instead of just around the outside. It was like a lap joint. That should stop that from cracking in the future. I've looked into making a billet one. It's a bit over a couple $100 for the materials, and then there's some machining and stuff. It's looking like it's going to be like a $900 part. Maybe a bit less. My mill will not machine that volume out without crapping itself. It just won't do it. It's too much for it, so I have to pay someone else to do it. So maybe one day in the future. All these stuff and things, excuse my itchy face there, is in preparation for taking the car to Chrome. Take maybe one, well, at least one, maybe a couple of people for a ride in the car, and do the roll racing, which is on a much longer straight than the practice won't be. The practice will be where we've run before, but the actual racing on the Sunday is on a much longer straight, so that should be interesting. It's possible I'm getting a little bit carried away here. There's stuff missing. Also, that drove, yay! Not very well, but it did drive. So we swapped them around and put this one in here. All this stuff in here was just so covered in dust, and it's maybe a 10-minute job to pull the dash out of it, the whole dash. So that's been pulled out. That actually needs some tidying up too, right? Look at all the missing paint and missing paint, and there's actually a lot of stuff that doesn't really need to be here as well. So that may get chopped. Not sure how much it weighs. I've never weighed it, but I might do today. You'll notice the steering column's not in there, because it's in here, because that's how it was looking, and so I want to make it look like new again. So I've started giving it a bit of a polish, so starting with wet and dry, and we'll go through and we'll make it shiny like new. I know, I did say I was getting carried away. If we're going to go faster and put stickier tyres on and all that sort of carry on, it doesn't hurt to make it a little bit stronger. So spot the new piece. There's really nothing in between the mount plate or foot plate on the floor there, which curls around the corner and attaches to the sill. You know, we've got a bar up here and everything. We've got this gusset along here. There's nothing from there back to these gussets I put on the B pillars here. Is that it stops. The windscreen's cracked over the other side, pretty much on the edge of that. It's within, I'm going to say within 20 millimeters of the edge of that. It's pretty obvious that that's what's caused that. Then there was nothing all the way down there. Okay, there's the bars that go through to the strut bars, so we're going to have suspension movement on that, pushing and pulling and everything. The next point of contact's here. Cracked windscreen. Funny that. So this is 1.6 mil thick steel. This is flimsy tin foil. There's really no structure in this car that's worth attaching to much, but you do the best you can do. So I'll make one of those for each side, smash that in there. This is all about vertical load more than anything, so it'll spread it out and attach it to a piece that they normally use to attach the dash bar, that the factory version of that. So it's as good as it can be for strength. I could potentially make this plate come through and bolt through here, but I don't really want to do that, so we'll weld it in. Fancy. If you didn't know, silver's one of the crappiest colours to try and do welding and not have it look absolutely doggy. It actually looks way better in person. Some of that looks really bad on camera. I don't mind the runs, I just spray bombed it with the spray can. But in person it looks totally fine. And look, it even matches up with this. It even looks like it's about the same sort of piece. Some noddy just grabbed these off the shelf and just slapped them in all over the car. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But that should definitely help strengthen it up. And I'd say I even painted the other side of it. Look, wow, can I even get to it? I'll lean in here. There it is. See, it's got paint on it. I don't think we'll need to put that piece in here. I think with that down there on each side, it'll be fine. I haven't done this other side yet. That'll be the same deal. So just slap a piece in between and it'll be done. Then I've got to put it all back together. The dash probably won't fit because that piece will get in the way and I'll have to trim some bits and bobs. And then I need to put the seat back in this side and the harnesses and everything for the taking somebody for a ride. It looks good. It looks cool without the doors, I reckon. What do you reckon? Don't mind me, I'm just wandering back here. That view there. I think that looks cool. It looks way more race car than what it actually is. No, to be fair, I mean it's full race car, isn't it? Can't be saying that's not a race car. Wicked. And that's probably enough. It's just after 5 o'clock and it's getting bloody cold. That's why I put the jersey back on. And I've had enough of the stink from paint burning off on the inside there that you can't get to. So thanks for watching. Cheers, boy.